All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of ActDefy's Connect series. We're your hosts, Ellie Wang and Harper Adams, and we're so excited to continue this series where we connect with different leaders, advocates, and changemakers in the community who are working to create a better impact on their local communities. And today we're honored to be joined by Jessica, who is an active member in a club dedicated to equality and an advocate for civic engagement, equity, and community empowerment. Would you like to do a quick introduction of yourself?
Sure. My name is Jessica Irvine. I've lived in Carmel, Indiana for pretty much my whole life. I went to Carmel High School. I was a first generation college graduate. I graduated from IU Go Hoosiers. We just had that big win. I went on to get my master's degree as well from IU in public affairs, both degrees in public affairs, and my master's is also in environmental policy and sustainability. I currently serve as the chief of the water enforcement section at the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. And I'm an elected board of supervisor for the Hamilton County Soil and Water Conservation District. And I do a lot of advocacy work in the community, supporting people that I believe in and causes that I believe in.
Can you tell us a little bit about your role and what initially motivated you to get involved in civic or advocacy work?
Yeah, and can I ask for clarification when you say my role? Which role are we talking about?
Either in the club or just like what you do around the community to help.
Yeah. So I assume are we talking about the Carmel Dem Club?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I know. Okay. So in the past, I have been one of the elected executive members. I used to be the serve as the treasurer of the Carmel Dem Club, Carmel Democratic Club. Um, and since then, I have supported it by showing up to meetings, financially supporting it, showing up, getting other people to come and get involved and sign up for their newsletter. Um, so those are some of the ways I've been involved with the club. I think you had a second part of your question, but I was focused on what group you're talking about. So can you ask it again?
Yeah, yeah, don't worry. So we just like wanted to know like what motivates you to go into the community and do advocacy work or work to help better the environment, for example.
Yeah. So I think I feel like I'm an empathetic person. It's just a natural empathy that I have. I have an intrinsic drive to help others, and I'm very mostly passionate about animals and protecting wildlife, which is what really I changed my career to focus on environmental issues because I believe that we have to be good stewards of the earth and leave it in a place for other generations of people and animals that it can be habitable and it can be as wonderful of an earth as what we experience here. And I know that with threats like climate change and habitat loss and biodiversity loss, that these are huge, major global issues that require many hands on deck. So very passionate about protecting wildlife, and I just care about human beings. I just naturally do, and that's really a big drive for me to be involved in these kind of issues.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. We really appreciate people who are, advocating for our environment and all those issues that, I mean, I feel like a lot of people don't go out and advocate because they don't think their voice actually matters. But it's great to see that, you're using your voice in like such a great way for the community. So yeah, our next question is, what does advancing like equality for, women and minority communities look like in practices at the state or local level? Or like, what do you think that, the youth like us can do to promote those, behaviors.
Yeah, great question. And I think you kind of touched on it that a lot of people might think that their voice isn't powerful, but it is really powerful. It is powerful. So, I think of what young people can do. Um, one of the things you can do is you can always call your legislators. They're there to represent you. And if you have concerns about certain legislation or you're really supportive of certain legislation, call them and let them know. I think there was a recent case in Indiana that really demonstrates the power of our collective voice, which is, there was a push to redistrict in Indiana before the end of the 10-year cycle, and which is very out of the ordinary, and it was purely partisan. It wasn't, I don't think there was no really good purpose for it other than partisan gain. Um, and I think a lot of people thought it was a done deal because of the state that we live in and the political climate here, but people were relentless from all over the political spectrum, were relentless in reaching out to their elected officials and saying, this is not right for Indiana, it's not fair. And lo and behold, the Indiana State Senate rejected that and it didn't pass forward. And it just shows the collective power of your voice. So one way is to um, call your elected officials. I believe that policy really can affect the world we live in, and that's just the plain truth. And so, if you find a candidate that's running for office that you really believe in, ask them how you can help. Maybe, if you're a young person, you're really good at social media. Maybe you can help them with social media. Or maybe you can go knock doors and talk to your neighbors about why you support this candidate. I ran for office in 2023, and I know how important it is to have people supporting you. It's not a one person show, it's a group effort. So, supporting candidates, calling your legislators, um, doing what you're doing, spreading awareness and advocacy about issues that matter to you, to your peers. So, those are some good ways.
Yeah, and it's amazing to hear that you ran for office. Like, just to build off of that, I just have like a quick question on that. So, like, what really motivated you to, run for office? And like, is there a specific like issue or something that you wanted to change um by running for office?
Yeah, I think, you know, to be really candid and honest, I started paying attention around 2016, the presidential election in 2016, and I was really worried about one of the candidates winning, and all I did was get on social media and give my opinion out there. I didn't do anything about it, and the outcome of that election was not the outcome I wanted, and I felt like I should have done more other than just vote. Um, and flash forward to 2018, it was the midterms, and I saw this young woman. She was my age. So I grew up in a working class family, young single mom, and we grew up probably on the low end of the socioeconomic scale. And I was a bartender for many years after college, after undergrad. Um, and I saw a young woman my age who grew up, who didn't have a lot of money growing up. She was a bartender and she won a seat in Congress in the midterms. We call her AOC. And I was really inspired by somebody my age getting involved politically and making a difference in her community. And I think I didn't have enough confidence. I was embarrassed to say it out loud at the time that I wanted to run for office someday. I wanted to, maybe not Congress, but like I wanted to be a change because I, again, believe policy is what affects our communities. It has a big impact. So, I started to lay the groundwork for running for office right then. I applied for grad school to go get my master's in environmental policy because I knew the environmental realm was where I really wanted to focus. I changed careers and I started working at the Indiana Department of Environmental Management, and I've climbed the ladder there, and now I'm a chief there. So, and I worked on countless campaigns. I was on the executive committee of the Carmel Dem Club. So I knew I had a vision, and um I laid the groundwork, and I knew I wanted to focus on things that we could do here in Carmel that would be environmentally beneficial. Like I wanted to do a citywide composting program, make sure that we're preserving our green spaces and not developing our green spaces, but really looking at ways that we could redevelop places that aren't serving our community as well anymore. So those were some of the things I really wanted to focus on. Um, but I think I saw somebody else who reminded me of me run, and it inspired me to do it. And I'm sure similar stories have been told of people who have been inspired by other people stepping up. And I think what you both are doing here may inspire other people. Maybe you'll be inspired to run for office. That's another great way to give back when you feel the urge to run for office and you feel like you're the best candidate. I feel like we as women sometimes tend to be tougher on ourselves. It's just something I've noticed over the years, but um, I think that more women need to be told that you are qualified enough. You don't have to check every single box. You don't have to be a perfect person. You have to be, there's no such thing as a perfect person or a perfect candidate. And so I think we need to encourage more women to run for office.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. And like, just more on the topic of like, running for office and just like, creating change through policy about, something you're passionate about, I think is really important. And I think that's why representation in government and like, these different elected positions are very important as well, because I think we don't see enough women representation. I don't think we see enough minority representation, which is something we're very passionate about on our end. And that's the whole point of our nonprofit is to, bridge that gap. So, everyone's voice can be heard and just be like, hey, like, if you're passionate, you can run for office regardless of, what gender or what race or whatever you are, So I think that's, that aligns directly with our nonprofit, and it's great to hear that you have similar experiences like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have any like parting words of advice for any like young leaders who want to advocate for social justice? I know we talked about like social media and just really putting yourself out there, but anything else you want to share?
Yeah, I think social media is powerful, but it's not the end all be all. And I think sometimes people focus too much on social media versus other ways to impact the changes they want to see. And so to me, that means volunteering for candidates, getting that experience. Knocking on doors is can be a little intimidating, but if we have nobody doing it, we're not going to win races. So being vulnerable, stepping outside of your comfort zone, knowing that you can do hard things, and typically if you're doing it for the right reasons, you'll have people behind you supporting you. So don't be afraid to take chances, be bold. I was so terrified. I hate public speaking. I was so terrified to run for office, but I was so passionate, and I had people along the way telling me that I could do it. And so I put my fears and all my self-doubt aside, and I did it. I did something big and bold and courageous. And I would encourage other people to do the same thing. Quit waiting for the perfect moment. Just do it.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing to hear. And just like that was our last question actually, but just like to tie things together, I think that's also why, just tie back everything back to representation. I think that's why it's so important to have representation to show the youth that like people like you can run for office as well, even if you don't see yourself represented right now. And just taking those chances is really important because like someone has to be the first for everything. So that's why it's so important. And that's why we're so glad that you came and
Yeah.
share your insights with
Thank
us
you so
today.
much. We're very grateful for you coming on here.
Oh yeah, well I'm so impressed with you both for doing what you're doing, and I support you all the way, and
Thank
Thank
you.
super
you.
excited for the work that you're gonna do now and for years to come.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank you so
much.
much. I'm
Have a
Yeah,
gonna
great
you're
day.
welcome.
end
You
the recording.
too.